Hi guys, welcome to All London Podcast. We're back again for another episode. We're back again. It's Afia and it's also
Charlene.
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure why I can't say my name correctly. Like I just can't say it regularly. Like it's either got to be like a song or
I think it's just awkward, isn't it? Like, just to say your name. I hate saying my own name. Like,
especially because like I guess on like all of the promo and stuff, like it just says Char, and that's really that's really just a space thing. Like my name is too long, so that's literally the only reason.
How do you actually introduce yourself though? Because I never call you Char. Do you introduce yourself as Charlene or Char?
No. I introduce myself as Charlene.
No. Yeah.
No, I introduce myself as Charlene. However, basically, I let people take it upon themselves. So it just ends up being that like people that are like, I guess, I don't know, people that have been in my life for a while, they just end up calling me Char on occasion, kind of thing. Yeah. So I let people I give them the option, but it's not, if you don't know me like that, don't ever call me Char.
See, like I'm a sort of person who never like abbreviates anyone's name. I always just say their full name. Like with my boyfriend, everyone calls him Matt, but I call him Matthew.
I actually called him Matthew the other day to you, and I was like, is that weird? Because you've always said Matt to me.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but you've always said Matt to me though.
I think that's just how I say it to other people. I don't know, but I never call him that.
See, that's interesting, because I gave him my own long, well, it's not a nickname, it's like a long nickname, because I called him Matthew to you the other day, and I was like, so Matthew, and I thought like, oh right, like does she feel a bit of aware, but like is she comfortable with this, or like I've never, given like the amount of time we spent with one another, I've never heard you call him Matthew, like.
Really?
Never.
No, I know. I think it's to other people. I just don't say it to him myself.
But does he introduce himself as Matt or Matthew?
He says Matt. No, he doesn't let anyone call him Matthew apart from me.
So if and when I see him again, I'm like, Matthew.
Oh yeah, you probably will have to say.
It's only gonna be something any kind of. That's funny. That's actually really funny. Well,
yeah.
Today.
Anyway, what is this episode about? So like
today we're going to talk about mental slavery, okay guys? Well, and that's what I'm calling it, but really we're just going to talk about injustices, namely in the professional sense of the word. So it could be in any industry, because obviously it happens in every industry. We thought we'd just touch upon it. I think we have touched upon it in like a previous episode before. Yeah,
so it was what was it? Is that a French plot?
Yeah,
we spoke a little bit about
in like more of a funny way, but I guess I think shit's getting serious right now, and especially with everything that's going on, we're still fighting this fight for racial equality. So I think it's important that we talk about it, and also maybe we can also offer some advice in like how to deal with it if you are in that position. We don't wish it upon anyone, however unfortunately this is the way of the world. So and until the big changes are happening and whatnot, we might have to deal with it. So with that in mind, I guess racism at work.
Racism at work is like a big one, and I think like what's so unfortunate about it is like regardless of like where you move to, like I think it's always going to be like it's just going to be there always. So you and it can be like little microaggressions, so things that don't really like formulate into anything like too serious, but there's always going to be something there. Especially if you're in like the corporate industry. Like I could not imagine working in the corporate industry. Like it's just not diverse at all.
It's not, but they're trying. Well, they're trying to though. Like so, I know people that work in sort of like corporate sort of finance, if you like, and some of the organisations there, like they've sort of said, we are working on it, but actually, it's interesting. Something someone said to someone that I know that because the organisation only has 100 people, they're like, this is actually representative of. There's only one black employee, so there's one black employee out of the 100 employees that are there, and they were like, obviously it's not okay. There's one black employee and I think one Asian, so two out of 100 of them, but they were like, obviously we know it's not okay, but it's actually representative of the current climate, which to be honest with you that's not a lie. That's actually not a lie. So that is actually a very interesting answer. Like that is representative of the current climate. Like that is really interesting to me, and that's the truth though. But then it begs the question, okay, so why are these people not being like promoted, or why are they not even being supported to be promoted, or if they're from like sort of like low socioeconomical backgrounds, it's like, okay, why are we not providing the support to
I agree with that as well. And I think it's also like the application process as well. Like I've seen it in like a few jobs that you apply for that like there's some specifications that you have to apply for a role that may only have been given to like people who are from like maybe a middle class or like upper middle class backgrounds who can afford things. So obviously we're in like music, so like there can be jobs like, oh yeah, you have to have like this like particular level of grade to get into this job, or you have to be able to have done this, and like with graded music, I don't know if you guys know, with graded music, like it does cost a lot of money. It costs like £100 sometimes.
So I've done my grade exams, and each time it costs hundreds of pounds, because you've got to pay for the exam itself. Obviously you're already having lessons, so that's already costly. You're then having to pay for like an accompanist as well to come specifically for the exam, and then rehearsals with the accompanist. So especially when you get to like the higher grades, or the high levels I should say, it costs hundreds of pounds. And obviously realistically, you know, as it's kind of like a vicious circle, right? We're not put in positions to be making money, but yet we have to spend money to get to those positions. So it just means that we're never actually getting to those positions, and so that is unfortunately the problem. So okay, how are we going to support them? Because at the end of the day, we're as much a part of this world as anyone else is. I want to say we black people, I mean specifically, as much a part of this world as anyone else is. You know, we help build like a lot of the world. So you know, it was through our trade and through our, you know, expertise in farming and mining and whatnot that this world is what it is today. So it's crazy that, you know, we're not even getting like reparations, or, you know, even being thought of, or even being considered when it comes to elevating.
Especially in our industry. I think especially in our industry, because black people have contributed so much to the music industry it's like as a whole. So for the fact that black people are not in those like top positions, like you get it in like music business, like record labels. I mean, a few record labels, they do have people who are up top who are like people of color or black, but there's not that many. So that's crazy to me that we give so much. And obviously like the artists, majority of like artists right now, because right now like the big thing right now is like hip-hop. Obviously like it's been like big for like however many years now, which is majority black artists, but like they're still not like the ones making like some of the most
money though as well, like
well for the industries, not really for them.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of these people are in like 360 deals are getting like fuck all money. Obviously now with coronavirus, people can't be touring, and that's how people were making their money. So it's just like it's mad. It's a bit like you said, it's a vicious cycle really.
It's not, and that's why when people say like the system is really just not built for us, it's just not. It's not built for us though, not because we can't partake in this system, quotation marks, but it's not built for us because they're not allowing us to take part in the system. So therefore that's why new systems have to be built, because the systems that are built at the moment, it's just like it's not for us. They're not trying to let us be part of it. They're not allowing us to partake in it, or even, you know, start at the beginning and progress through said system. So that's why the system needs to be broken. You know, you keep hearing this all over the gaff, you know, in America, UK, wherever the hell, you know, like, but unfortunately this is exactly why, because it's a vicious circle where black people are not even given a chance to even be part of it. You know, the statistics are redonkulous. Redonkulous. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about someone in sort of like popular culture. So and then I guess we'll go to sort of more like
so we can
popular cases.
So a popular case that's been like, so this came out in, I think it was like November of last year. So if you guys don't know, so like Monique, who's like a comedian, also an actress. So she's been in things like Precious, The Parkers. Like,
shout out to the Parkers.
You'd have seen her, like,
Parkers,
and also what's that? Shout out to like Ratchet TV though. She also
Trouble.
Did, was it the Charm School? Flavor of Love Charm School. So it was all like the Flavor of Love girls, and they went to like Charm Schools to try and like be better women or whatever the fuck. She hosted that.
Is it?
So that was time
shout outs to Thea for Ratchet TV, okay. Always
so
the plug.
like so like Monique's like, she's big, like she's just been in the industry for time, like everyone knows
definitely
her, like. So yes, exactly. So she was approached by Netflix to do a comedy special. So she was like, cool, let's do it. They were offering her $500,000, and she was like, that's a bit weird, because like I know like Dave Chappelle has been offered millions, Amy Schumer's been offered millions, like all these people have been offered millions. Why am I only getting like half, not maybe even less than half of what these people are getting? So like she was basically fighting them. She was suing them basically for racial and gender discrimination, which is facts though, because like why? So like Dave Chappelle was getting millions for his special, so like why is Monique? I mean, because she was saying I'm equally talented, I'm equally as like well known, so why am I not being
well, see, that's the thing though, right? So whilst I completely understand her point, the thing is that their whole thing was about market appeal, and the reality of it is that compared to Dave Chappelle, Monique isn't as well known though. that is unfortunately situation. I don't think I
guess in a more popular pop culture
that's
sense.
what I mean. Sorry, of course.
No,
of course.
Yeah,
I mean, when I knew Monique before I even knew who Dave Chappelle was.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
But I'm talking about, obviously Netflix are thinking about mass appeal here, right? And the reality of it is, unfortunately, I don't think that is the case. But I guess the way they went about it though, and also they still dogged her. Like, you can't be giving me 20 times less than this other person. That's dogging. So sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what she's saying though, because I think it's regardless of that, if you're paying people for a certain amount of things, you're only giving her half, at least give her a meal. I don't know how much the other people were getting, but I do see what she's saying, and you would feel that way if, she's been in Precious, which was a fucking an Oscar nominated
film. Yeah, definitely.
So people know who she is. I think people know who she is, and they're just trying to be fucking dickheads about it. So this is now, July, there were a bit more movements made. So a federal judge has denied Netflix's second motion to dismiss a race and gender discrimination lawsuit from the comedian Monique, who alleges in the suit that the $500,000 the streaming service offers to her for her 2017 stand-up special reeked of discrimination and perpetuated the pay gap suffered by black women, which is another situation in itself. And that her business dealings with Netflix ended with blacklisting act and retaliation. So I think Netflix were trying to go against what they're saying, and they just didn't win. I think the case is still ongoing. I'm just trying to find the updates there.
So
I heard that she might have won it as well though.
I think, I'm not sure. But let me just give you guys just a understanding. So Amy Schumer was given $11 million.
Jesus. Okay, so
$11 million. And then however though, comparatively, Tiffany Haddish received $800,000 and she didn't mind. I'm not sure what other terms there were to do, but I mean, to be real, obviously Monique has been out way longer than Tiffany Haddish has been, but at the same time Tiffany Haddish has had some really big commercial success in recent times. I mean, but I think that's actually saying something, because even Tiffany Haddish though was only given how popular she was getting 800k, and my god, Amy Schumer got 11 million.
That's ridiculous.
Crazy.
And I don't feel like Amy Schumer is that relevant now. She was relevant maybe in the early 2010s.
Was she? What was she in though?
I don't know where she came from, but she came from somewhere, and everyone was like, oh my god, she's so funny, funny. And I was like, is she? No, she's not. But anyway, she was quite big in the early 2010s, obviously, but now, no, 11 million.
So that was in 2017, to be clear.
That's ridiculous. No, that's ridiculous.
No, yeah.
So that's the same. Well, that was the same year as Monique was offered to do her show. So that's ridiculous. You could at least give me 3 or 2 mil if you're going to give this woman 11 now. They're taking the piss. So yeah, this case, as far as I know, is still ongoing. So we'll see what happens there, but I think Monique has got quite a strong claim, to be honest, because it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But yeah, that's just a big thing anyway. Obviously we know about the gender pay gap. We also know that black women are typically paid a lot less than their white peers, so white women. That tends to happen a lot in the workplace as well, and it's still something we're trying to fight today. And
honestly, it's crazy. I mean, I was there's been quite a lot of seminars going on right now, just because of again, everything's happening with racial equality in the world. And there was a case study. So there was a seminar that I listened to by just an external random company. I think it was something to do with women of color in corporate finance, I believe. And they followed the story of 2 women who were in the same position when they first entered the organisation. So one being white, of course, and then one being black. And yeah, the trajectory is just absolutely crazy. And bear in mind that the black employee was 1, smarter, 2, worked harder, and they made sure that they assessed it based on quality of work and trajectory and things like that. It wasn't just she looks the same on paper. No, these are actually 2 proper case studies that they followed, for a period of time. And the white person ended up in a director position, and the black woman unfortunately ended up having to leave the job due to anxiety and mental health issues because of her treatment at the organisation. And that is still what we're dealing with now. It's crazy.
It's really
crazy. And yeah, go.
there was another thing that someone was doing, so it's not like that, but it's just trying to see like how it works in terms of getting jobs as a black person. So they put like, so in their first application form they put down their like African name, so like it was like a proper, it was just like a traditional African name basically. They put it down, didn't get the job, and they're like, cool, let me use my English name. So they use their English names. Did they not get a call back for an interview? Like,
crazy.
Like what are you supposed to do at these steps? Because obviously they're going to ask you for your passport. So if that's your legal name, like I can't be changing up my name. And like especially my name, Afia, like that's just not, obviously it's not an English name. So that's something I've thought about as well, like when I've seen, because I remember there was, I can't remember what it was, but I think like there was a friend or something that like got a job over me and they were like way less qualified and I didn't even get an interview, and I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
And then I started to think, wait, like maybe it is my name, like that's just, people are like, nope, straight away when they say, they're like, no, Afia, no, what's that? Like, do you know what I mean? So I think that definitely does hinder like a lot of people's
I mean my parents have told us, like, you know, I mean my tribe, you know, from where I'm from, like we typically have like British names anyway, or Western names, so how do I say it, but like my parents told me, like I've got and at certain times where the application forms I don't use some of my middle names and sometimes I do. It's that's the reality of it. And interesting, but it's so interesting enough though, right, there was one time I was applying for a job and like I thought I would like I was definitely qualified, and obviously, you know, there's lots of different factors, maybe I just didn't present myself that well, but at that point I'd done quite a few applications, so like I really thought, like, you know, like I was surprised I didn't get an interview, but when I saw who I had to send the application to, it was like, oh, it was an African name, so I was like, okay, like it was an African woman, obviously can't remember her name, nor would I say it. And so I thought, okay, well let me bang in an African name there too, like, like, you know, I'm thinking again, maybe that might help me. Obviously it didn't. I didn't get a callback interview, didn't even get a message to say that, or an email to say, you know, that I wasn't even shortlisted or anything like that. So I mean, it's interesting, it's really hard to know, and like sometimes I do think to myself, like, you know, I would love to know, you know what it's like from a recruiter's point of view. Maybe that's something we can talk about.
That's another thing as well, though.
Stage.
So this is something that like my mum experiences, like she's experienced in a few of like our other workplaces, and she's said that like a lot of the times, oftentimes when like black people get into a job, some of them like to be seen as the only one, so like they'll make it like much harder for you to like progress, or like they don't want to hire anyone else, they want to be the only black, and like that to me is just so problematic and like so really crazy. Sad that I mean, some of us who are like that.
This is the why that like other races are able to break us down so easy, because we don't even support ourselves. Like this has been like this has been a recurring problem.
All skin folk can't kin folk, is that the one? Is that the saying?
Something like that, yeah. No, something like that. Like literally, like this is exactly why. Like this is why white people find it so easy to break us the fuck down, because they see us not supporting one another. It's crazy. Listen, put it this way, right? Listen, let's be clear. Like in workplaces for me, like where I've had other black employees, like let's be clear. Like even if I don't, or like colleagues, sorry, even if I don't feel like they're not doing what they need to do, or you know, I feel like they could be working harder, or like they're making my life difficult, because if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not tripping unless you're making my life difficult in it. Like do what you need to do, but if you don't affect me, then cool. But even if I see that, like I'm never gonna put you down or rat on you like that, because I already know that we have to stick together. We have to stick together, because no one else is here to stick up for us. Like, and that's one thing I really like pride myself on. It's like, okay, cool. Like, even if I don't feel like you're like pulling your weight, I'm just gonna sit in silence. Like, I'm not gonna say anything. I probably won't say anything positive, but I won't say anything negative, because I'm not gonna. Well, it's true though, because I'm not gonna like try and dog you out in front of people, and it's just like, okay, they're looking at us like, okay, wow, like. That's the thing. So you have to like, I just think it's so awful. And you know, there's plenty of situations like that as well. Like I remember we went to a restaurant for my sister's birthday, and there was literally there was one black guy. We had a reservation and everything, we were on time, in fact we were like slightly early, like there was only one black guy as like a host at the restaurant, and everyone else was white. Obviously it was like it's definitely an upscale restaurant, and literally got there, this man said, oh yeah, you can just sit over there. He was so rude. He was like, sit over there. Had us waiting for ages. People came in, like walk-ins came in, they were seated and everything. And then like literally, and so I literally went up to him, I was like, what's going on, bro? And then like his colleague was like, oh, like you still waiting? I was like, yeah. And the colleague was white, and then it was just like I was just like, what's going on? Like we had a reservation for 7 o'clock, it's now 7:20, and like we've not been seated. There's enough tables around, enough. So like there's so many free tables, I don't understand what's going on. And he was like, yeah, I'm just coming. I'm like, busy? You're what, busy? You're standing at your little podium doing nothing. Like what's wrong with you? We were the only black people in the restaurant as well. It's just like, but why? It's so unnecessary. And like, I remember actually, I told you about this, and you were like, you know, it's just because he's like, you know, self-hating. But listen, we need to self-hate in silence or at home, because don't come and dog out your people, your fellow people in like in public, like where it's like, okay, cool. Now everyone else in the restaurant is gonna see me like. I mean, I'm not someone that's going to get mad about that, but everyone else in the restaurant's going to be like, okay, look at how this black man's treating black people. Cool, I don't need to treat them well either.
Is that exactly? That's the thing. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. If we don't have no respect for ourselves, then like, why is anyone else going to have respect for us? And like, this is the thing though. Like, with any other races, no one puts that pressure on them. So like, if there's one white person acting away, we don't assume that all white people are that way. But unfortunately, black people are not given that same benefit of the doubt.
No, not at all.
So if one of us are acting out of pocket, they think, oh, that's all of us. If one of us treats another black person like in a bad way, they're like, okay, cool, then that's the way they should be treated, basically, because if a black person's doing it, then I should do the same. So yeah, it's just, I hate shit like that. It really pisses me off.
It's awful, and it's really hard. But yeah, that's, you know, another example. And so then I thought to myself, okay, like maybe is he being discriminated against at his job because and then is he taking that out on some, like on us or like other people? I'm not really sure.
He might be thinking like, shit, I can't give these guys like preferential treatment because people are going to think, oh, they're just doing it because they're black. But even, he's probably not. Obviously he wouldn't have been doing that, but he's probably overthinking the situation.
I mean, he went the complete opposite other way.
Yeah, true. He was probably just trying to overcompensate by being rude though. But
it didn't look good on you, Maggie. So like, it just doesn't. Yeah, it's not making sense. It's actually not making sense. And I mean, it's a real bad issue. And I guess like, you know, of course, like Afia and I have lots of examples that we could talk about. But as well as that though, like when I was sort of like researching like different things and just like, you know, about this topic in particular, I just think, you know, it's something to talk about. So it's actually 25% of workers in the UK have actually reported having experienced workplace discrimination in some form.
Only 25%?
But I mean, that's still quite a lot though.
I'm surprised.
No, I think that's actually quite a lot.
Actually, do you know what? It is a lot considering the fact that we're only a very small minority in the UK. That is a lot. That's true.
Well, yeah, but first of all, we only make up like 11% of the British population anyway.
Right.
But aside from that, this is just workplace discrimination. So this is not even just race, this is gender, this is everything. You know, anything that obviously goes against the Equality Act. So, you know, I think that's quite a lot because, you know, a lot, and you know, I'm sure again we might know cases as well, like, a lot of people don't report it. I've got a friend who went through a lot in her workplace and she just didn't report it. Nothing. Like when I'm telling you, like, they're discriminating against her for her, like, for potential like health reasons and things like that, just they just didn't.
Exactly. And like I think me and Charlene, like, I mean, I can speak for my own self, but like going through like the processes, so like the normal process, which would be like obviously you alert it to HR and stuff like that, like that is just mentally exhausting. So I can understand why people wouldn't want to go through that. And also like for the fact that if you're the only black person within the company, you might not feel comfortable to bring those things up because who's going to believe you? If you're the only black person making up noise and like, well, it's not true though, is it?
Before we get into that,
why it goes
100%. No, 100%. Before we get into that, I just want to finish off what I was saying. So 25% of workers in the UK have reported having experienced workplace discrimination in some form, and that's according to a study conducted by Sky actually, to mark National Inclusion Week, and that's 2018. So maybe it's gone up very slightly since then. It's about 2 years ago.
I would have thought so.
But it identifies prejudice as gender, race, and age, and that apparently that remains really common in UK businesses. So, I mean, I'm sure that what's happened is they conducted a survey with maybe their customers or whatever, which obviously Sky is like one of the biggest providers for like, you know, internet and TV and whatnot in the UK. So they probably said, you know, have you reported, but have you, and then they probably have asked also like, but have you experienced it? And if you're experiencing it, might not have meant that you've necessarily reported it. So I mean, the fact that they're able to say that it's quite common in UK businesses, like, not surprising, but also rather quite scary. It says that so the self-same study recognised that a youth-driven revolution could be underway to counteract this outdated way of thinking, as Generation Z, the under-25s population, are twice as likely to feel that employers should do more to promote inclusion in the workplace compared to the baby boomers of the workforce, the over 55s. And so that's really interesting, because I would say that, you know, Afia and I are part of the revolution, and I would say that our parents are probably that other generation of baby boomers, as they like to call them. I mean, thereabouts, you know. And you know, we've spoken a number of times specifically about how, you know, our parents' sort of approach to dealing with things is maybe slightly different to ours.
It's very different. I think our parents are definitely more complacent. They're like, well, you know, everyone hates their job, everyone goes through like hard times, they're happy to get on with it. Whereas I feel like millennials, and especially the Gen Zs, like you said, we're definitely way more vocal about it. And it's like, well, like, just because I'm working somewhere doesn't mean I have to put up with the bullshit that they're trying to throw at me, basically. Because
I can tell you, like, there's, you know, examples of, and, you know, thinking about now, like, you know, now that I'm older, like, thinking about, like, you know, having examples of my mum coming home being like really, really upset about her job and not really understanding, or like being unfairly, you know, made redundant, or, you know, where she wasn't expecting to, or, you know, things of that nature. And really like crazy, like thinking about the stuff that she used to put up with. And when I'm coming home telling her like, oh, you know, this happened to me, that happened to me, and that's to both my parents, not even just my mum specifically, it's like, okay, yeah, I dealt with it, you know, like, that's just what they're like in the workplace. Like, nah.
Yeah, and it's like, no.
Nah, I'm not standing for that.
That's not how it should be.
Nah.
Exactly. And like, so yeah, I would say like, well, I can speak for both of us. We're definitely like vocal about these things, and like, if we're feeling a way about the way we've been treated at work, I think it's so important that you do speak up about these things. But I mean, it's easier said than done. It's not just an easy thing to just go out. It's a scary thing, and like,
it's
you don't know what
scary.
the repercussions are going to be. If people are going to go against you, because the thing is, especially being an ethnic minority in the workplace, especially being a black woman in the workplace, you're so vulnerable as it is. So it's really your word against everyone else's.
I mean, we're vulnerable for two reasons: we're black and we're women. Like, so,
we're women, exactly. Like, so like the odds up against us already before we even said anything. So yeah, it's really their word against ours, and just to deal with the repercussions of that, because people can say, you know, the buzzwords, oh, you know, you're aggressive, you're intimidating, or you're this, you're that,
you're too sensitive, or
right, all these things and then it just really puts you down, and like, you don't really feel like taking it any further. But I feel like if you're lucky enough to have a good workforce around you, i.e. like your like colleagues in the office or wherever, then I feel like it's definitely like beneficial to like put your feelings to them as well, because I think the more the merrier, basically. If everyone can sort of like get behind you and be like, oh, maybe we'll like support you if this goes this way or that way, then try and go down that sort of route if you feel quite alone.
I feel like that's quite a good way to lead us onto allyship. But before doing so, I want to go back to something previously you said about steps to take. So I think one thing, because you touched upon it about HR, one thing everyone should realise, and something that someone told me which I thought was the smartest thing they said, is that people need to realise that HR is for the organisation, not for you. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's unfortunately, like, HR are there to make sure that the business is calm, or the organisation is calm,
guys,
and it's not there to support you. It's not.
And I think we've learned that the hard way, unfortunately. So
yeah, I definitely learned that the hard way. So obviously, you know, really, I guess the best thing is to like definitely sort like a union representative and sort advice from a union, especially because they would have gone through and been through similar cases maybe to yours. I mean, the reality of it is that what's happening to you is not the first time, it's not the second time, it's not the 100th time, it's like the millionth time. So someone somewhere has gone through what you've gone through and has, you know, reported it or whatever. So unions do have a lot of experience in dealing with that. But I would say general practice for like an organisation would be like, you know, if you feel like you're experiencing something in the workplace which is untoward, you know, always speak up. That's the first thing. It's so difficult, and sometimes you might actually go through it a few times before thinking, okay, right, like, this is not right. Like, I don't feel like people can be saying these kind of things to me. Like,
no, definitely. We've spoken about this in previous episodes as well. Like, when like someone says anything, because we block so many things out as black people, and then like it all comes out at once. You're like, oh, they've commented on my hair. Oh, they've commented on the tone of my skin. Oh, it's fine. Like, you just ignore it, you push it away. But like when it becomes like repetitive, like there's actually you realise, okay, there's something going on here. So,
but yeah, definitely, like, you know, and I think if you've got, you know, a colleague that you really trust, then that's great. You know, you can. It's good to have someone, especially within the workforce, to talk to. But I'll be honest with you, like, you know, colleagues aren't trustworthy. So I just feel like it's the truth. Like, colleagues aren't trustworthy. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, yes, you do spend, you know, a good amount of time with them in the office if you work 35 whatever hours a week or whatever. But it's like, like, you have to really know that you can trust people, because the reality is people do snake you. It's just facts.
Definitely.
But yeah, obviously talk to sorry, go.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, talk to a colleague. But I think the reality of it is that, you know, if you do feel like something is happening that's, you know, untoward, or, you know, not appropriate, you know, in violation of Equality Acts and different things like that, or company policies, then then definitely follow the steps of your organisation. So usually that's talking to your line manager. If you're unable to do that, because unfortunately there's situations where that's not ideal, then I guess seek advice from their line manager, and if not, then maybe a union would be the way to go. I think often organisations like to try and deal with things, or sort of internally and also not formally, so trying to seek like resolutions through like mediation or things like that. But unfortunately sometimes that is just not that's not enough, or sometimes it just doesn't even maybe the time scale is not, it doesn't take it doesn't work for that. So
too long, and I would say like one thing to be careful about is like try to always keep things in writing, because a lot of oftentimes they want to like resolve things by like calling you, and the thing with phone calls is that like it can be interpreted in many different ways, or like people can say that you've said this and you said that and you haven't. I would just try your hardest to keep everything in like emails. Definitely keep a log of things that's been going on, because like if you have to go as far as to like, let's say like tribunal, or like even like your HR meetings, whatever, you've at least got a log of like what's happened, and that will hopefully build your case for you, so it's not just coming out of thin air. So yeah, keep everything in writing as much as you can, I advise.
And but to be honest with you, like there's also like just make sure to stand your ground. And what I mean by that is like, don't let people bamboozle you, because that's definitely happened to me, like where I feel like I've gone into a situation thinking it's gonna be something, and then it's not that, and then I've been like bamboozled into like doing something else that wasn't really the intention. So I feel like make sure to to like be as clear-minded as possible, but also to expect like anything, like be prepared for like any situation that might present itself to you when trying to deal with something like that. It is really hard, and trust me when we tell you that we understand, like it is hard, and it is really hard to stay mentally strong. So don't be afraid to take mental health days if you need to. At the end of the day, like mental health is as much of a sickness as having a cold or having an ear infection. Like you need to protect your head, so if you need to take days as well just to like digest things, or just to completely forget about it, work, and to get your mental headspace back intact, then definitely do that. I think they should actually bring in like mental health days as more of a formal thing, because definitely. I mean, mental health is such a big thing that we're talking about right now everywhere, and so that should become sort of like more formal part of like the working contract, or what have you want to say it. So but I think that unfortunately these things do happen, and as Sophia and I have said already, and we can't be silenced. So
no, definitely not. I think that leads us on to like how to be an ally. An ally. So if you're obviously to be an ally, it's just basically like, well, in a simple sense, just supporting someone who's from like a different group as you. So that could be like supporting LGBTQIA+ if you're a straight person, or supporting the Black Lives Matter movement as a non-black person, or just a person of color, or just a non-black person. So that's just being an ally. How to be an ally when you see these things happening. I think the things with these, because we're speaking about racism in particular
specifically,
if you're a white person, oftentimes like your word is obviously like holds more weight than our words. So I think it's just number one, like if you ever see anything that is unjust, and to speak up about it, or just to speak to the person that you see it happening to, just be like, I've seen that too, like, because a lot of time I feel like it's validation that you need as well, because like we were saying,
but isn't
like,
that a shame though that we need validation from white people? I know. We're talking about racism so much, and then it's like a lot of times it's just being dismissed, and it's just like, are you actually because you're like, am I making this up?
But you feel like am I being over the top? Am I overreacting? Like surely like this isn't right. But then if you have like a white colleague be like, no, like I've seen this happening too, it's not correct, then you're like, okay, right, I'm not losing it, because this is the thing, like we get gaslighted a lot as black people in the organisation. You get gaslighted.
Racial gaslighting is
it's
a
real thing.
Just gaslighting in general, then you add racial gaslighting, it's like I'm shook.
It's a whole other thing. It's a whole other thing. Speaking up, because you don't understand how much it like how much it helps the person mentally just to know that like someone else has seen what I'm going through and someone else understands that it's not correct what I'm going through. So that's step number one. So yeah, speaking up, number one. Number two, I would say like if there's an opportunity for you to maybe go to have a hearing or anything, for you to go and be like, cool, like I can be your person there, like just to take notes or like make sure they're not saying anything out of turn, just to sort of back you up, like offer your support, like to go with the people with whoever's experiencing. And also, yeah, I would say those are the main 2 points really, just like speaking up and like being there to support.
I feel like allies, like the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the word ally because I just think it's like it makes me feel quite uncomfortable, to be honest with you, because I don't feel like I think the word is ridiculous because everyone should just be supportive of everyone and everyone should just be a good person. But anyways, that's the term we're using right now because of what's happening. And you know, let's be clear, like we understand that it can be difficult as well to be an ally, but let's be clear, like also silence is compliance. So it's like if you're seeing things that are happening around you, and I'm not saying sometimes it actually takes a second because you know the reality is that you're privileged, you're in a privileged position, so sometimes you're just not seeing things all the time. But once you do realize that things are happening, you know, I think you're right, it's absolutely you should actually absolutely take the opportunity to, you know, speak up and I think it's actually your duty to do something. I could never see someone suffering there and like just be there and sit there in silence. I've spoken up for people before and I'll continue to do that because there's situations where I'll be with a colleague and, you know, I'm like, no, like you're not going to talk to us like that, like you're just not, and like I'm not just going to sit there and like let you talk to me like I'm a dickhead. Like there's absolutely no way. My parents, like, first of all, let's be clear, like obviously I'm at a disadvantage because I'm black and I guess I'm a woman, but I grew up privileged, in my opinion. I'm black and I'm fucking privileged. I also grew up in a very comfortable household where I live with professionals my whole life, and so although like our parents are of the generation where they're just like, you know, this is what I've dealt with, at the same time it's like my parents also told me like, you know, you've got to stand up for yourself, like you have to. So anyway, I say all that to say that allies, if you're going to be an ally, then be an ally, and if you're not, then that's cool. Like I see you. I see you.
Please just do it.
I see you. Like it's cool. At the end of the day, like some people just don't want to, you know, I've been in situations where you have, you know, colleagues who struggle to articulate themselves and also are just not very confrontational. I think often like when you're being an ally, you might have to be slightly confrontational, and there's some people that just aren't built for that. And you know, but there's other ways that you can help. You can offer the moral support. You can offer advice, maybe like, you know, talk to your person whoever's dealing with it, saying, you know, have you thought about doing this, or have you thought about doing that, have you thought about joining a union, have you thought about seeking advice here or there or whatever the case is. Like there's other ways to do it. Like you don't always have to be like the sort of combative or like
popping off.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm all here for it though. I'm a girl who loves confrontation, so but silence is compliance. That's how I feel. And to be honest with you, once you're silent, you're just an op to me, and that's and you're gonna see my attitude change towards you. I don't give no fucks about nobody. I'm telling you now, like
I think that's like number one of how not to be an ally. So silence. It's just so dangerous because it makes me look at you the same way that the person, whoever's doing it to me, I'm gonna look at you the same way. Silence is compliant. You're just as bad as the person who's doing it to me. So yeah, that's number one, I would say. Number two is ignoring it. I think it's the same as being silent, but like just ignoring it.
I think it's even worse though, because I feel like for me, if you're silent, then it's like, okay, cool, you've noticed it, but you're like, okay, I'm not really trying to,
you're a bit shit.
Right, okay, that's how I'm seeing it.
But
ignoring it is like, okay, really, I'm just not trying to see it. Like I'm not even trying. I'm not even trying to believe you. I'm not even trying to. I'm not even trying to understand. Like fuck this. I'm really just focused on myself. Like fuck you.
Why I say this as in like, let's say an issue's been brought up to you. So someone's really expressing something like, look, I feel this way. I feel like I'm being treated this way. And you're just like, oh, but it's like, oh no, it's actually like this. And you're like, no, that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, this is happening to me. This is what's happening to me. This is how I feel. This is how it's making me feel. So like, I need you to listen to me. And they're like, no. Like like that.
Like maybe they're thinking this, or maybe they're thinking that. Don't tell me that. That's another thing. So don't tell me what I'm thinking. Like don't take the piss. Oh, I'm so triggered. I'm so triggered. Do not take the piss. Like if I'm telling you something's happened, okay, you can play devil's advocate, but sometimes just listen to what I'm telling you though, Maggie. Like just listen to what I'm telling you. Like don't tell me what you think they might be thinking. Like I didn't ask you to tell me what you think they might be thinking, that you might be thinking, that I might be thinking. Like fuck off. Like fuck right off. Okay. If I'm telling you something, listen to me, for fuck's sake. It's ridiculous.
definitely. So yeah, that's just a little bit on that. I think like this moves us on to just diversity in the workplace, because like this is like another thing that's important as well. So we spoke about it briefly when we're talking about the hiring process and stuff like that, but like what we're speaking about now are the reasons why diversity in the workplace is so important. Because had there been diversity in workplaces, a lot of this racial discrimination wouldn't be happening.
No.
If there were people who were up top who were people of colour, then these things may not have been happening so much, because a lot of these companies that we work for are like led by like rich white men or powerful white men, whatever, and like oftentimes like black people or people of colour are not ever able to get to those positions, and then it just creates this vicious cycle, like, oh yeah, maybe like someone like is an admin who's black or whatever, but they didn't really have that much power over someone who's like CEO or like creative director, whatever the fuck, of a company. So it's so important to have diversity in companies, because then like that allows people to see like, okay, you're going wrong here, like we're not having enough like of like their say in this, like this is how we can improve, because we notice things that white people don't notice. That's just the obvious thing. So yeah, diversity in the workplace is so essential to avoid these things from happening in the first place.
But also I think that diversity in the workplace is really important, because a lot of these companies that don't have any black people, I'm just going to speak about black specifically, they obviously have these like preconceived notions of what black people are like. We're aggressive, we're this, we're that. But if you end up working with a black person, realizing actually, do you know what, you can't just generalize us, you can't just put us all into one box, you know, then it actually means that maybe your outlook and your action towards you know, black people might be different when you're out and about, moving about. Like, do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like I would say that, don't get me wrong, there's some people that are racist just because they are racist and because they feel like being racist. There's some people that really are just ignorant. That's something I noticed when I was at school. Well, I went to all white schools, and in sixth form there was some you know, girls I went to school with who were just ignorant. Like they just they didn't understand what culture was. They didn't understand what Asian or black culture was. They just didn't know. There wasn't even that bad mind, but they just didn't know. So it's like, if you actually allow people who are qualified, let's be clear, we don't want any free handouts, but we are qualified out here, okay? So if you actually hire people that are qualified but who are of different cultures, then maybe you might learn something, and that might actually change your outlook in general, and that would actually help like half the issue that we're dealing with. And also
we know about our communities best though, because like oftentimes, like especially in the creative industry, like you get like these white people who are from like West London or from really privileged backgrounds who go and work in like less privileged areas and think that they know what's best for the community, and it just doesn't make sense to me. The people who know best are who are born and bred in that community, and those oftentimes are black or like brown people from those communities. So like if we're not hiring them, we're not really speaking for the community, and we're not doing what's best for the community, because how do you know as a rich privileged person, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I was gonna say though, sorry, just to add on to what you and I said, this is actually why people get triggered by people that they perceive to be coconut or Oreo or whatever they want to call it. Let me tell you, or bounty, whatever you want to call it. The reason why people, like other black people, are triggered by people that present themselves that way is because they're thinking, okay, cool, you're in this position whereby you have the opportunity to educate, and this is not the case all the time, but this is the case sometimes. You're in a position where, you know, you might have the opportunity to educate and also like help, you know, other people, white people, let's say, you know, feel, you know, more comfortable with black people or blackness in general, or whatever the case is. But like, then you're presenting and you're acting and speaking in a way that doesn't even represent us. It's like, how the fuck are we supposed to progress? Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm not saying it's okay to use that term, but I'm saying I think that's the reason why some black people get triggered by people that might present as that kind of person or present it that way. Do you understand what I'm saying? See, I think I personally wouldn't use the word making white people feel comfortable, because I don't give a fuck about making white people feel comfortable. I think it's more of the fact just learning how black people are, and learning and like giving them the knowledge that like not one specific race is all the same, like we come in like so many different varieties, and like so I think when you're like hindering the success of like other black people because you want to be the only one in the space, like that is that's I can't understand that sort of behavior, to be honest. But it's so interesting what you were saying about mixing with other races, because it allows you to experience like different cultures, and that's so true, because when I went to my school, it was majority black, but there were like Muslims, so like I learned about because one of my good friends is Muslim, and had I not gone to a school that had like a lot of Asian people, a lot of like Muslims, or like there was a lot of Polish people as well, so like learning about all of that stuff, I had not gone to that school, I would not have like mixed and like been as educated as I was like with those cultures and stuff like that. And it was great, and I was so grateful for that, because like when just the treatment of Muslims now, like I know from my experience and like having like been grown up with like Muslims and having like good Muslim friends, or like that's not what the religion is about, and that's not what the media is making it about, and that's just common sense anyway, but like it gives an extra added something like when you've actually mixed with those people. It's so important.
It's so important. Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, and another thing, so I think like just to move on from that, so I think like one thing that like black people have started to do, like, and I've spoken about Jordan Peele so much, but like I think Jordan Peele is like really doing something great right now. So I'm going to talk about diversity in movies and film. I feel like what he is trying to do is that and like specifically in the genre that he's doing as well, like just horror. Typically in like the movie in the movie industry, we are, if black people are in horrors, we're the first ones to get killed. Like, you don't know how it's like, we're the first ones to get killed or doing like stupidness. Like,
I remember there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre like number 3 or something like that, like Trey Songz in it.
Is that the one Kelly Rowland's in? Kelly Rowland's in one as well though,
all them niggas get killed first.
They're all in it. And they get licked off. Yeah, you don't know how it is. So Jordan Peele said no more of that. And then has created like a whole genre, like black genre of like horror, and it's just it's so
that's become mainstream though, which is great,
and it's so amazing to see, because we're not in those sorts of films. And like I don't know if you've watched Lovecraft's Country.
Not yet.
That's like it's like an adventure horror, like it's just like so many different genres, but like something that I've never seen black people in on mainstream television, and it's so great to see, and we need so much more of that. And it's just a shame that it's taken us ourselves to do it for ourselves. Like it should be like big people up in the industry doing this, but they're not doing it, so we have to do it ourselves.
No, definitely.
This is someone who's using their platform and be like, look, I'm black, let me get all these like badass like black actors up on my game, and like let me push them up, because like he's pushed up the careers of like Daniel Kaluuya?
Yeah, Daniel Kaluuya. I was like, oh sorry, I didn't know you man were on first name basis.
We're friends, yeah. That's my boy. No, but I mean like obviously like his career bloomed like from Get Out.
Oh yeah,
and,
of course.
He's putting people on, and that's
Black Mirror as well, to be honest, like
Black,
which is sort of similar series.
Yeah, true, because he's from, who is he? What's his name in Skins? Because he was in Skins, isn't it?
Oh yeah, my guy. He actually also
Kenneth, something like that. Kenneth?
Yeah. He also like wrote a few episodes as well, which is dope for just the culture. And I feel like other people like Noel Clarke as well. Like I think he's done really big for the UK,
big.
Like you know, having started from Kidulthood, and like that was huge, and now doing things like Bulletproof, and like you know, so there's a few people out there.
That's doing it for your community.
100%, and you've got to.
We need more of.
Got to.
Yeah, we have to.
Got to, because like, and that's the thing. Like a lot of the other communities, in fact, all the other communities help themselves. You know, Asians are very notoriously sort of like, you know, very, 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 very dedicated to one another. Like, you know, Asians don't play no games. So like,
right.
And so unfortunately black people we need to start doing that. You know, it's really hard when, again, and that's another thing as well, we see the reason why just plainly white people not going to respect us as well. They're seeing people like popular, you know, athletes and whatever, like they're only dating like other people of other races. It's not like then they're thinking okay, raw, like, so even them man who are rich are like, no, fuck off with the black people, black women specifically. Like it's hard out here, like you know, and something we spoke about as well before, but it's just like literally like if you look at like the landscape of like sportsmen, like a lot of them are like married to white, Spanish, whatever the case is, like, but you know, apparently black women are just not good enough, you know, and we touched upon it already. So it's like this perception in general is just really like, it really does it resonates in different ways in people, but it's all subconscious, and like that is all what sort of like builds a subconscious or unconscious bias that is happening to black people just in general, especially like in the workplace. Like, and actually I listened to a talk on unconscious bias, and it's like we all do, you know, do it, we all do, you know, present, but it's like but it's really unfairly upon black people. Like it's really like it's really disproportionately unfair to black people, sorry. So yeah, but another thing is, you know, we won't be silenced. I said that already and I'll say it again.
No, definitely
and
not.
Listen, they might try to put gag orders on you, but you know, you'll persevere. Like you'll fully persevere, because you have to.
Look, man, the only people who've got us is black people, so like
100.
You gotta have yourself 100%. Always stick up. My mum's always raised me to like stick up for yourself. If some bullshit's happening to you, you have to speak up. And like in my spirit, I just can't not say anything. Like, that's how I am. I know everyone's not the same way. No, but you have to.
And it's hard, like, and we said this already, you know, it is hard because sometimes you're like, okay, I've done this, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, I've, you know, fighting this, fighting that, and you get to a juncture in the road, you're just like, I'm tired. Like, I am I'm tired.
And that's fair enough. If you get to that point, that is fair enough. It's understandable. But sometimes, for the sake of other people, because in my head, and I've said this to Charlene when we've had conversation, in my head I'm like, do you know what, like if I'm in a situation where like things aren't going well and I speak up out it against work, even if it doesn't get resolved for me, I'm at least trying to resolve it for people who come after me. That's what I think in my head. I'm like, there's people who are going to come after me, may not have like the mental strength to keep doing what I'm doing. So long as I can like set something up so that they're not going to have to go through the same thing, like I've got to just keep pushing. And that's like hard to like even get to that point to be like, oh, can I even still do this? But yeah, if you get tired, like it's totally understandable. But
listen,
like,
I think though that at the end of the day, like I'm a Christian, I've said this before, so for me, God helps those who helps themselves. So you know, I'm gonna do what I can do. I feel like like you know, if you need to speak up or speak to someone or whatever the case is, like do that, take the professional channels if necessary, and then just see how it goes really. But with that in mind, I think this is a good one. Always stand up for yourselves, guys. Like Afia and I really believe in that, and it does get tiring sometimes. Sometimes you might need to take a break, sometimes you might need to take a second, but just know that like it's not in vain, and
definitely
that something somewhere has sparked something to whereby you've actually made a difference, and that is all you can really ask for,
Definitely. I mean, we're starting conversations here, man. This is why the Black Lives Matter movement, because it's not a moment, it's a movement, is so important, because we're starting these conversations. And like also for me, I feel like without this happening, I may not have had the confidence to be even louder in my workplace. So keep being loud, keep being unapologetically loudly black. Never be ashamed of that shit. And
amen to that.
I think that draws the episode to a close. If you guys have had like, I hope this helps people who, if anyone's going through this sort of thing at work.
Definitely,
it's a horrible thing to go through, but just know that like we've got you, man. Like we feel it, we understand how you're feeling, man. So yeah, hope you guys are alright.
Yes, have a good week. We'll see you next time. Persevere, prosper, and be perfectly black.
Yes.
The 3 P's. All right, bye.